Hello, I'm FPL MV and welcome back to another FPL preseason video. After you saw my tier list regarding forwards, I've decided to make a bigger showcase of cheaper strikers 6.0 and below, where I'm going to see which are the best options for you, because all of us want a cheap forward in our sides to become our third forward spot, because 3-4-3 seems to be a good formation to start the game with, and having such a cheap forward there that can bang some differential points is going to be very beneficial this season. I'm not going to discuss 4.5 players because I'm not sure who is going to be playing and what minutes they are going to get, so I'm not going to get into that discussion. If you enjoy the content, as usual, subscribe to my channel. You will help me grow massively. If you believe I missed some strikers, write them down in the comment section. And now let's see who that strikers are. We are starting with a newly promoted player, being Morris from Luton. He was their top scorer in the championship last season, and he is one of the main reasons that they're in the Prem right now. He's going to be nailed. He just signed a new contract, and being 5.5 frees up a lot of budget for your team elsewhere, because this is most important with so many expensive players that you want in your side and so many medium price players. You need those hidden gems that are being 5.5 and below, especially. In my opinion, he's a very strong player. If I see that he's doing good, and if I need a player and I am confirmed that he's on penalties, I may consider him, because Luton have a okay start of the fixtures wise, and if they need to stay in the Prem. That's being their goal, in my opinion, for sure. And if they want to achieve it, they will need a strong start of the season, because the fixtures then turn for the worse. But at the start of the season, they're okay. You can even rotate him with some of your midfielder players or with your defenders if you don't believe that he's going to deliver a lot of points. But in my opinion, Wootton can cause some damage, because they will be a dark horse in the Prem. They are something new. They are not something known. They are having a good team. They will have a small stadium where they're going to play the game, so they will play their style and their everything. And Morris can deliver a lot of points. I'm going to monitor him closely during preseason, and if I sniff that he is going to be delivering the best points possible, I may consider him. And if I need to save some money on my third striker, I may go for him, because saving a little bit of money can never hurt someone. And if you believe in players that are more expensive and you want a hidden gem, I believe Morris is your guy. He's nailed. He's playing for a new sites that are going to surprise the Prem with their play style. They've not gathered information about how they're going to play, so I believe Morris can be a little hidden gem that can improve your rank massively, especially from the start of the season. Next up, we have Ferguson from Brighton. Ferguson just had his breakthrough season last season, and I believe he's going to improve massively this season. They are going to have European football, so his minutes may be restricted and split up between both of the tournaments, but regardless, he is a very good option. If he is bound to be starting and be their main man up front, he is going to be a very good option to begin the season with. Danny Welbeck is there as well, and he can provide another option to their attack. Undaf is there, Joao Pedro just joined, but in my opinion, Ferguson, with his young age and with his dedication to improve and to showcase himself, I believe that he will have a very good season. With Brighton having such good fixtures from the start, yeah, they have Wootton, and I spoken about Wootton already too highly. I believe Brighton are just a better team, and even though they may concede some goals, I believe that they will score even more. And having a forward and a midfielder from Brighton seems like a necessity, so Ferguson can be one of the options to be your third striker in the team. You can go a little bit higher to a midfielder or a little bit lower to a forward, but Ferguson is in that golden state, and just between the two of the more expensive and more cheaper one players, and he can provide an easy way to just downgrade or upgrade without sacrificing your initial structure and initial style of play. Ferguson, a very good player. I don't think he has penalties. I believe Gross will take them, so Gross will have that under his belt, but Ferguson will, and he's a good poacher, and he is working around the box. He's scoring a lot of goals. He scored pretty important goals last season, and I believe that he will do that this season, so consider him for game week 1 squads for sure. Next, the player that we're going to showcase is Crystal Palace striker. It's Edward. I believe Crystal Palace will have a better season this season with Roy Hodgson starting the season and having a pretty known style. He will rely on his striker, and what better to rely on the tallest and strongest guy in his team being Edward. In my opinion, Edward is a very good striker. He is a bit of a wild card to go for sure because they can buy a new striker, they can do a lot of things, they can rotate him with Mateta, but with Ulisse out and Zaha leaving the club, they will have one more free spot for attacker, so Edward can become more and more regular. Yeah, he is a rotation risk just like Ferguson is, but in my opinion, he's the best striker right now that they're having, and having and building a pretty solid foundation around him is a good choice in my opinion. He's providing whenever he's playing, and he has some double digit goals that are not to be ignored for sure. Going for him is seeming like risky. Crystal Palace are not the best side to pick your player from, and many of you will say that Morris is even better, but you cannot say that the established Premier League club is going to do worse than a newly promoted side. So Crystal Palace for me will have a safe season this season. They will not attack the European spots, but they will remain in the Prem pretty comfortably in my opinion. They can even attack the top 10. I know that is just stretch because they did worse last season than the previous one, but in my opinion Edward can improve their side when he becomes a more regular player, and going for him instead of a non-unknown player from the Prem, it looks like a better decision in my opinion, but it's your decision to make. If you enjoy Crystal Palace and you're a fan and you want a player that can score goals, Edward is your guy. If you want to be somehow more excited, you can go for Morris. You can pick whoever you want. You can even go for a 4.5 player. It can play maybe more than Edward. I know Baugun from Arsenal is being rumored that he's going to join Crystal Palace, and if he does, for 4.5 striker that scored 20 goals in League One, he can score like 10 goals in the Prem, and 10 goals for 4.5 gem is just brilliant. He will replace everyone and everything in your side and can be your third striker for the whole season, no matter what he does, no matter how minutes he plays. 4.5 semi-starter is always a gem to be looking at, but for now there is nothing too sure, and Edward is going to fight for his spot, and I believe he's going to keep it. So consider him, in my opinion. Don't be afraid to take a risk on him. I believe that he may be risky, for sure he is risky, but he is an option that cannot be ignored, and you have to have him in your back of your mind when considering building your game week 1 squads. Next up, we have one of the most important forwards in the game in my opinion, that is Wissa. Wissa is going to replace the goal scoring machine Ivan Toney for half of the season, and I think he needs to deliver some good numbers. When he comes off the bench, he almost every time scores, and he has a very good goal record for a player that is not getting regular starts and no starts at all. So having Wissa to be playing more than 30 or 20 minutes is going to be intriguing to see. We have to see how Brentford are lining in preseason. Preseason games are going to showcase to us how often and how good they're playing with their players, what the heat maps will say. I will prepare everything in separate videos to discuss some teams, but for now Wissa is for sure a very hot guy that is on my radar. I'm considering him and rating him very highly. In my opinion, he's in top 3 forwards right now to be considered in that price range for sure. Top 2 even, because I have one more striker that I'm more considering. You've already seen it in my draft, but I'll keep it a secret for the guys who hasn't yet watched my updated draft. Watch it in my channel. It's a pretty good draft. I explain everything together with Fantasy Football Scout fixture ticker, why I go for certain players. I'm not going on players specifically, but prices and teams. You see that in that video, but to return back to Wissa, we don't know who is going to be on penalties. If he is a must-have in my opinion. If he is not, then Buemo becomes a must-have. We have to see who is on penalties, because Brentford seem to get a lot more penalties than usual team, and Ivan Toney was banging on them, but one of the reasons was Ivan Toney was such a good poacher, and he know how to play back of the defense. When Toney returns, he will become a must in my opinion. But for now, let's focus once again on Wissa. If you want a 6.0 million striker that is playing for a very good side, top 10 side, go for Wissa. He is nailed in my opinion. If they don't buy another striker, he's going to have an integral role in their fixture-wise performance. So I believe Wissa can be a very, very good addition to your side. You can just monitor him in preseason and decide then if he is good enough for your team. But for the initial thoughts and fixtures and everything, Wissa is a very good choice for your game week 1 squads. We have another Brighton striker to consider for that low price range. It's Joao Pedro. He's a new signing. He was confirmed even before the last season ended. So he is very, very needed and required by their new coach. So I believe he will get a lot of playing minutes. When and where he will play, it's up to Disabri. But for now, he has a good potential for him for sure. Can play the attacking midfield position and play as a two together with another striker and just replace McAllister and leave Gross and if Caicedo stays or they buy a new holding GM to cover up those bases. But Wawana is back in the team, Milner is into it. Right now, we don't know how they're going to line up with so many new transfers and they bought the hood. So they have most probably one striking spot for their striker and having already Ferguson, Undav and Welbeck to fight for that and now Joao Pedro makes things even more complicated. So maybe players like Mitoma and March can lose some of their playing minutes. We have to monitor and see that. But for now, Joao Pedro looks like a very hot prospect. He's already been playing in the Prem. He scored several goals for Watford. So he's known to the Prem. He knows how to play off their other teams' defenses and how to position himself. He won't need a lot of time to integrate himself in a Premier League side. So that's was as always. Look out for him in preseason. Basically, those players just need to be monitored in preseason to see what if they're taking penalties, if they're taking set pieces, where they're playing on the heat map, because that's what preseason is for, to adapt your style to a playing style just to start the season and begin the first 10 games with 10 game weeks with that style and not change it before something else need to happen or they change their manager or something like that. But if the teams begin and concede and continue playing with that manager, they will need at least a month or two to swap the style. So it will be that style for a very long time. So Joao Pedro may get per hand than Ferguson and Welbeck. So you have to consider all of the Brighton possibilities, and having a cheap forward from Brighton will be a very, very good starting point for your team because their first two fixtures are amazing and attacking the MC is like a good plan to begin with. So consider the Brighton players, they're good for sure. And I believe that you cannot go wrong with such selection because they're good. As I said, you just need to find the right guy that's going to play the most minutes and get the most chances, and that's the way you're going to earn the needed points to increase your rank after the game week 1 onwards. Last but not least, we have one of the best strikers a couple of seasons ago is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Last season he was haunted by a lot of injuries, but the seasons before that he racked up amazing points. His price up for last season to 8.0 made him a no-go for sure for most of the FPL players, but now his price is 6.0 and he is interesting once again to be picked. He is a penalty taker. He is a sole striker in Everton's lineup. A striker under Sean Dyche is bound to score goals, and a player with the qualities of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if he is injury-free and he is playing as well as before, is going to be very, very beneficial for him and his team. They have an okay fixture run, and now when they're staying in the Prem and they're not fighting just for scraps, and they can easily remain in the Prem for the seasons in the future. Dominic Calvert-Lewin playing without pressure can do a lot of great stuff, and in my opinion can be the best cheap forward that's in the game. He will be compared only to Wissa for the start of the season in my opinion, but as you have already seen with my draft, if you have seen it, Calvert-Lewin is right now in my side because Everton are having such good fixtures and I cannot seem to find another good player from their team. Maybe someone else will emerge from preseason. We have to check that and see about that. But for now, Calvert-Lewin is staying in my team. I believe that, as I already mentioned, he will rack up some amazing points, and with penalties under his belt and him being that low of a price can be a little gem of your side and be the best player possible for your third striking role, or even a second striker if you consider having two low price strikers and just rotate them with higher end midfielders. We have to see how the game is going to begin and how we are going to approach it, but for now DCL is staying in my side for sure, and he is going to have a very, very big impact if he is having regular minutes and he's injury free. We have to check about that because he is injury prone, but if he is to be fit and he is to be playing, just keep believing in him, because the first 8 game weeks are favorable for Everton, and I believe they can get 2 or 3 wins, and the goals will be coming from Calvert-Lewin for sure. So for that case, believe in him. Wissa is a strong contender, but he is not sure to be taking penalties. Well, DCL is, so I see DCL taking the upper hand right now if he is nailed. So in my opinion, DCL is the best cheap forward that you can get for 6.0 and below. I hope you enjoyed the other reviews as well. If you did, subscribe to the channel as already mentioned earlier in the video. Write down a comment if you believe that I missed a striker or you want to consider some other options, and I hope to see you very soon with another FPL preseason video. But for now, guys, I'll be heading out. Bye.